All right.
I meant.
That's how I like it.
They're right there. Fuck this. But I want to tour literally as much as humanly possible. For example, last year in 2017, I did 11 months straight on the road with very few breaks in between each tour.
Yo, what up? Today we're talking with my boy Frank Fanelli. Used to be in a band called The World We Knew. He used to tour with us. He was kind enough to bring the Browning out on one of our first tours ever. He's been involved in the music scene forever. He's worked with people like Bam Margera, CKY, Emmure, Chelsea Grin. He's even done Disney on Ice. He's done everything in the scene, and even outside of the scene. In this podcast, we talk a lot about his duties as like a tour manager, what that might mean for the people that might not know, and we talk about just experiences he's had and what we've both learned through being in the music scene for so long and how we're applying our knowledge of that we've gained through the years being in the music industry into other aspects of life. And I do these podcasts once a week, uploading every single Friday. So if you want to see someone specifically in one of the next podcasts, then comment down below. Also give the video a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see when I upload more videos. I stream on Twitch 5 days a week where I write music, play games, hang out with you guys, and chat. And I've made a lot of really good friends on my Twitch. So I'd like to see you in there as well. Down in the description, I'll have a link to my Twitch channel. 5 days a week I stream. Hopefully I see you in there. I really love Frank. He's a really, really good dude. One of the people I bonded with the most out of anyone I've ever toured with. So enjoy the podcast and let's get into it. So we're here at attempt number 2 of podcast with my boy Frank Fanelli. He owns a clothing company called Cat Clothing, and he's also been involved in the music industry forever. How long have you been touring? And
since the dawn of time.
Since the dawn of time. He is the Jesus of touring.
Since dinosaurs roamed the earth, I've been doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, what was it, 2004 you started, or 2006?
I started The World We Knew in 2004, but we started touring in 2006. So I've been touring for 12 years now.
And how old were you when you started?
I was still in high school. I was 17, and then 17. I did my first tour February 2006, and then I literally dropped out of school almost immediately afterwards, and tried to achieve my goal from there.
Yeah, and I mean, how I know Frank is and also the reason we're doing a second one is the one we did that was an hour and a half got deleted because I didn't have enough memory, so rip. But we're still going to talk about everything. And how I met Frank is he was kind enough, a kind soul, and brought my band out on tour on one of our very first tours. I think it was like our 3rd tour we ever did or something. And that's how we met. And I mean, I thought we kicked it off on that tour. I became friends with everyone in that band, you know?
I have one of my first memories. We didn't even talk about this. 2 different times. We played a show together in South Carolina.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. Charlottesville. Yeah. Charleston,
really small show. And everybody was kind of there for you guys. And, it was just a one-off, and then I was just like, yeah, I guess this band, this could make sense down the road. And I remember that. I was watching wrestling at the merch table, as per usual, and you guys were playing, and I was watching wrestling and watching you guys and watching wrestling, watching you guys. And then fast forward to when we took you on tour. I remember specifically in South Dakota. I think it was on Halloween. We wore dresses.
Yeah,
on
you guys wore dresses, and we did corpse paint.
Yes, and you guys did a terrible job at corpse paint.
Yes, horrible.
but that's not what I remember. What I remember specifically was I knew clearly I've talked to you prior to this moment because that wasn't the first day of tour. But I have a vivid memory of you coming up to me in the afternoon or whatever load-in was, looking at me, not saying anything. I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" And you came to me with a handful of change like this, then like this, and I'd be like, yeah, and you'd show it to me real quick, and then I'd look down at it, you'd pull it away and put it back in your pocket and just walk away. That's my first memory of Jonny McBee.
I like making things weird. Like, why not? You know.
Oh man, that was so funny. God.
I don't know. I like just going up and to people that I meet on tour because it kind of makes the interactions throughout the tour just that much better.
It's
There
just
was
like,
one tour when oh god, there was one tour. I forgot who we were on tour with, but I had everyone in on the band on it, and we acted like I was deaf the whole tour. It was like they would be talking in the room, talking about all this stuff, and they tried talking to me, and I would just kind of be like on my phone, and they like people thought that I was actually deaf on the tour.
That's great.
I like making it, and then like halfway through the tour, I was like, yeah, we're pranking you this whole time.
Damn, halfway.
It was like halfway. It was a long time. I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone on this tour. I'm gonna act like I'm deaf.
We definitely tried to tell our friend that our drummer, you remember George,
Yes.
very, very large El Salvadorian guy. We tricked a friend in Florida we told our friend that he only spoke Spanish, and our friend didn't know how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, how do you interact with him on the road? Like, how do you tell him to do certain things or what time loading is or whatever? And we were just like, we kind of like pointed a piece of paper or we'll tell him to pick something up and bring it somewhere else, or we'll just hand motions. Oh, okay. So we introduced, his name was Chris. We introduced Chris to our drummer, George, and we were like,
yeah.
Chris, George goes, oh, it's so nice to meet you.
Talks all slow.
Such a pleasure. Glad you guys are playing the show. And George's like, yeah, man, cool. What's up? That was so good. He's like, yeah, why are you talking slow for?
That's hilarious. That's great.
Good
And
time.
it's hilarious how English-speaking people think the slower you talk, the more they'll understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, he doesn't know it. No, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love those little pranks. There's we had this one dude in our band for a little bit. He filled in, and it was basically on the tour. We printed one laminate that was the full size of a sheet of paper. One laminate, the full size of a sheet of paper. And we told him every time he messed up on stage, he would have to wear that for a day.
Damn.
And so it was, but he eventually just owned it up. Like, he was just like, I love it. He just wore it around because they got attention for it, walking around with a freaking laminate that big hanging off his pants. It was great.
That's so good. I still, now, I know we'll get into it, but now that I'm tour managing full time, I send out an email before tours to like all the tour managers, or if I'm the headlining TM.
Yeah.
And I'll just pretty much give them a breakdown of how I do things and how I want the show to run and how I want the tour to run, whatever. And a part of it, it's, I don't want anybody to lose their tour pass because they could be a dickhead and just give it off to somebody else in the tour, or a friend if they want to get in for free and the guest list is full, typical stuff. And I tell them, it's like, if you ever lose it and you want a new one for me, you have to mosh for the local bands.
Mosh for the local, sick.
Yeah. Have you ever seen No Zodiac?
Yes, recently, yeah.
Their singer is like a pretty big dude.
Yeah.
Like he's a scary dude, and he's super nice, but you don't know him, he's super intimidating.
Yeah.
He absolutely had to mosh for the opening band in Atlanta on the tour because I was running the tour.
Yeah.
He came up to me like before doors open. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. And I was like, did you read that email I sent out? And he's like, no. I was like, man, you want a new tour pass? You got to start moshing. He's like, nah, man. Like, come on, we got to play after that band. I was like, well,
that's the rules, dude.
Too bad. He went out there and he smashed kids.
Heck yeah.
Smashed kids. I was like, you get to pick the breakdown. If you're feeling it, you got it. And I felt bad because he had to get on stage right afterwards.
That's hilarious. That's so good. I like that a lot. But yeah, so like Frank mentioned, well, me and him met when he was with his band, and Frank did a transition where he then started working full time for bands, and I think we were the first band that you really started working with, or did you work with other people before that at the time?
No, I think it was just I think it was you, and then from you I went into maybe Phineas.
Yeah. So like he started tour managing, and like we got him into doing lights and just like doing like a kind of a package deal as like a crew member. And I mean, at the time, at the point the Browning was at, it wasn't like a crew member. It was mainly just like, bringing our friend that's going to help us in certain ways, because things weren't super official back then, but it turned into a full-on career for Frank. Like now, Frank, you've toured with Bam Margera, CKY, Emmure, Chelsea Grin, a bunch of other stuff, even eventually getting to Disney on Ice. Like Frank, and this is something I tell people all the time. It's about the small connections you make that then branch into anything in the industry. And so, like, I mean, what other acts did I not mention that you've toured with that like were really enjoyable for you? Or
I'm about to do We the Kings, which is like a pop band.
Yeah.
You said Disney on Ice. I've done Yellow Wolf.
Oh yeah, Yellow Wolf.
I've done a pop trio from New York City called AJR that's blowing up really hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just did Pennywise. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And Frank's also done Warped Tour. This is going to be your third or fourth time with Cat Clothing?
Fourth time. Fourth time doing it.
Yeah, so it's like Frank he toured. How long you toured with your band for? It was like 7 years?
We were a band for 9 years, and we toured for 7 of those years.
Yeah. So like through touring with The World We Knew, like how did you, like, what made you decide to want to make that transition into being I don't know. I don't like the word crew because I don't know. It's just like, what made you want to become like a tour manager or start working for bands? Because you booked bands before that too, right?
Yeah, that's the worst job ever. That's not true. It's just I hate having to do a job where I have to rely completely on other people to make something happen. And you have to rely on different promoters around the country, around the world to properly put together a show.
Yeah. A lot of times people you've never even talked to before.
Yeah. Never met in person. You just email them or you talk on the phone once or twice or whatever. But that's super frustrating to me. So that's partially the reason why I enjoy tour managing so much, because I know if I'm tour managing a band on a headliner or whatever, the show is going to be run correctly because I know how a show should be run. Am I the best tour manager in the world? No, of course not. Everybody's replaceable, but I know that the show will be ran correctly and on time, or the way it should be, to the band's satisfaction if you put me in charge to do so. And I did that a lot for my own band back in the day because everybody else was not going to say they were unresponsible or they weren't responsible or whatever, but I just had a better idea of how that shit ran because I've been doing this kind of thing since I was like 14 or 15. I worked for different promoters in Long Island, where I'm from, and they kind of like taught me the ropes on how that stuff was supposed to be ran. So turning it into a career after playing full time for 9 years was an easy transition. A blow to your ego, of course, because I'm not the man anymore on stage or whatever. You know, it's typical stuff, but you kind of get over that. I started making money, and then you're like, oh shit, I can pay my rent, and I can eat anything other than ramen noodles for dinner tonight.
There's a lot of times when crew makes more money than the band members do, because the band members kind of do take a hit on, like, okay, you know, I'm performing, I'm going for this whole thing, but whenever you hire a crew member, you pay them what they want, and or pay them what you can, and so there's actually a lot of times whenever the band is making a lot less money than, say, their sound guy or something, you know?
Yep.
And but for the people that don't know, like, some people hear tour manager and they say, okay, they manage a tour, but they don't know what goes into that. So, like, could you give like a rundown for people, like, what you do on a daily basis as a tour manager?
Literally from the ground up, you decide how the tour is going to be ran, with the help of obviously the band's day-to-day manager and then the band's needs and what each promoter and venue staff want or allow. So literally down to where you're parking the bus or the van, to the entire day schedule from when you load into the venue, load in your equipment and set up and have a sound check and
catering,
VIPs. You know, what are we going to do? What are we doing for catering? Are we getting money instead of actual food so everybody can eat on their own whim with their own money? Do we do VIP? How many VIPs are there? Do we need security for VIP? Do we need somebody to check everybody in? You name it, man. I mean,
Yeah. You decide what time the bus needs to leave, what
Yeah.
time everyone needs to be everywhere. Basically, the job of the tour manager is to take any relief off the band possible to make the band comfortable and just be able to focus on being a musician. Like,
it's literally, it's some are worse than others, obviously, but it's being a babysitter for full grown men.
yeah, especially with specific bands. Like, I've met some bands that just really don't want to be responsible to any extent. Like, we've toured with a band, I'm not going to mention who it was, but we'd get calls from their managers. Hey, they're like 6 hours late. Can you go to UPS and pick up the merch? You know, like that would happen like 10 times. And it's like some bands just really aren't responsible. So if a band gets big enough to be able to hire tour managers, those bands really need someone to take care of their lives. Like make sure things go down properly.
Yeah. There's definitely, there's definitely plenty of bands I've worked for that don't want to lift a single finger.
Yep.
Don't want to order their own Ubers, don't want to walk to get food anywhere, don't want to do anything. That's fine. I mean, that's what I'm not a personal assistant. If you want to hire me to be your personal assistant, that's a different story. But I run the show. I make sure everything goes off as close to without a hitch as possible. Within the comfort of how the band wants it to be ran.
Yeah. And like Frank said, he learned a lot of this stuff through touring and doing it himself as well. And like, it's basically what I've always done too. There's been very few amount of times that I've actually hired a tour manager. And mainly for me, it's only in Europe is whenever I'm like, I just don't want to deal with talking to, people that can't speak English to get paid and talk about back-end and all this stuff. So in Europe, I'll hire a tour manager sometimes. But whenever I walk into the venue, if I'm tour managing, like, in my eyes, whenever I walk in, I'm like, this is my venue now. Like, today, this is mine. Like, I walk to the promoter and I say, hey, can I see what time sets are? And then he shows me, I'm like, okay, we're not going on at 12, So, like, I would sit there and schedule out the whole day and show him this is what we're doing today. And this is how much money I need for the catering. And here's the contract. And, like, I basically walk in and I just own the place. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of to get stuff done properly for the band the way the band wants. That's kind of how you have to do it a lot of times.
What's interesting now is I advance so in depth now that I walk in, or I'll send an email the day before and just be like, hey, listen, just making sure we're all on the same page. Here's the schedule once again. Here's all the information you sent me. Here's what I sent you, vice versa. I advance so in depth now that when I walk in, 9 times out of 10, I don't have to do anything. It's
definitely
like, well, to an extent, you have to load in and set up and whatever, but everybody knows this is what time it is. All the day sheets are put up as soon as I get there. There's not much to talk about. I'll go right into the office. I'll get our buyout or I'll whatever and distribute the buyouts. And then everybody kind of just does their thing until sound check. And then it's easy from then on.
Yeah.
But
advancing is whenever the tour manager is another thing the tour manager has to do is you call the promoter in advance, and the promoter is the person that buys the show and pays the bands to be there, and they rent the venue if they have to, or usually they have like venues they kind of live at, and so you kind of call them like 2 weeks in advance, and you're like, hey, I have a show coming up in 2 weeks. I just want to make sure this is the things we kind of want. Then you call them, a couple days beforehand and make sure everything is in line, so it's like, even before the show, the tour manager is still doing crap way beforehand to make sure things are going in line.
Oh, I usually start at least a month in advance.
Yeah, depending on how big it's. Yeah, because obviously if a band has a rider, and what a rider is something that is a specific list of needs that a band needs. Like some people want a pack of socks every show or something, like if I ever actually get a legit rider, I'm putting a pack of socks on that sucker. Like that would feel so good. Just a brand new sock on every day.
Yeah. I try to alleviate as much annoyance and stress as possible off of the promoter, because I'm the representation of the band. Yeah. If you walk in there and everything is hell on earth, they're gonna be like, "Wow, that show was really annoying. That sucked." Like, and then I'm the guy that am faced with dealing with that. You never want to deal with a guy who's annoying or that is annoyed at how you handled things and then he has to pay you at the end of the night. If you walk in there and everything's super simple and you barely have to talk throughout the day, like of course you have to figure out some problems here and there, but that's a good show. And at the end, if everybody's happy and everybody shakes hands and talks and bullshits and it's just an easy night, they look at it completely different. They go, I'd love to have that crew back again. They were so simple, and it's just you're the face of the band behind the scenes on tour. So I try to walk into a venue and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, and it really does make a difference on promoters bringing you back a lot of times. Like I know bands that the promoters won't have the band back just because the merch guy that travels with the band is a douche, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and if the tour manager's even worse, the promoter doesn't want to have them back unless if it's like they're making an extreme amount of money from something. But it's like the crew really is a huge determining factor on if a band's going to be booked again at that place or with that promoter again. So crew's super important and should never be should never be taken for granted. And I've had some tours where even the stagehand for the headlining band was a douche and made me have a horrible time the whole tour, you know? So it's like being a good crew member is essential. And that's another reason Frank has been able to work for so long, is he's made a lot of friends and he is good at what he does. And I mean, as long as you take care of your crap properly, then you can keep it rolling, you know?
I'd like to think I do.
Well, I don't think you'd be working still if you weren't. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah, because I know I've had some people out with us that I will not take out again. So yeah, I'd gladly bring you out for $10 a day again, though, if you're ever willing.
Oh.
No, but by now I know you guys know Legator guitars. You guys have seen me play the guitar they gave me on stream plenty of times. You know it looks great. You know it plays great. It's a great guitar. Head over to legatorguitars.com. Check out what they got. They got 8 strings. They have really, really nice bodies. The necks are really thin, and you have a lot of control over the guitar. The guitars are really lightweight. The Ninja Series 7-string they gave me is just phenomenal. Also, head over to Legator Guitars on Twitter and give these dudes a follow so that you can keep up with any deals that they might have going on. So legatorguitars.com. I really like this company, and you should too. Go check them out. Frank also does cat clothing. It is a clothing company he started up on a whim. You're just like, can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I towards the end of the Whirlwind News career, I knew we were winding down just because we were like starting to record demos and for just I think a 4th full length was the plan. And the demos just weren't getting the traction and the interest that I wanted them to get from the people in the industry, that I was hoping to at least get interest. I don't know. And I was just like, is this even, I was thinking, is it even worth it anymore? Because it's been 9 years, and maybe I essentially gave up after nearly a decade, but a lot goes into that, because it's not just because of maybe some member changes or the songs or I wasn't having fun or I was fighting with band members. Like none of that is really it. It's just a matter of being disgustingly poor, trying to live a life as a 20-something-year-old after doing something that you're super, super passionate about for 10 years and only getting to whatever success you feel isn't enough. And like I said yesterday, like last time we talked, I was super, super, super bitter about it, but that's a different story. I started Cat because I was so broke that I just needed another outlet without getting a job at a fucking McDonald's or something like that. I just needed to try something else out. And what do I know? I know merchandising. I know what may sell to people that follow what I do or whatever the scenario was.
And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's like people have a perception that the bands like live off of it. Like almost every band besides massive crap always have some sort of side gig to get money.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's a job at home, like being, they go and put up drywall at home in between tours, or
Yep.
everyone they go and be a freaking barista or a bartender or something. Like, that everyone has some sort of side job, and like if you just lived off touring for 10 years almost, then you probably were literally $0 at almost all times.
Yeah.
And so you started Cat to be like, okay, I've done plenty of merch with my band and I've connected with all these people. I think I can sell some merch.
Yeah, that's honestly why I started it. I love
Yeah.
cats, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
That's just an easy one. But I thought to
Yeah.
myself, I'm like, cats will literally never go out of style. They'll never die off. People are never gonna stop liking cats unless like a random kitten somewhere like eats 10 children, and then it'll just never not be popular. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a funny way to start and make some stupid shirts off of that. And I mean, 5 years later, it's done. I'm not going to say I'm the most successful, because I'm not at all, but it's done way better than I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's with a weirdly minimal effort in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't really put marketing behind it anymore. I will be again soon, because I just took on a new business partner, but I never really put too much marketing to it. I never really gave it my undivided attention because I tore so much.
Yeah.
And it's like it was a side gig just to keep me afloat at the time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just another avenue, another
Definitely.
way.
Well, that's like they say, no millionaire is rich from just one source of income. Like there's always multiple things like passive incomes coming into people that make a lot of money, and
Yeah.
like and your reason wasn't even to make a lot of money. It was just to make some money, because as a small to medium tier touring band, you don't make money because the money you make typically goes back into the band.
Yeah, I think
so,
for my first order, I did 5 shirts, and I did like maybe 50 shirts each, and that was like with whatever last cash I had from whatever tour I just finished. And that was just like, holy shit, if this doesn't sell, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, like, to really figure out what you do, because like it is hard to get like a job at home, because you have to be like, hey, job, I'm just gonna have to leave at some point
Hey,
for
job.
like 3 months. I'm gonna have to leave for 3 months, and I hope that you'll let me come back. It's very rare that a company's like, yeah, that's not a problem, it's fine.
It's very rare. Yeah.
It's very rare. And so that's what, like, for me, for my other source of income, I do like a stream on Twitch, and I am doing some YouTube stuff to see where that might be able to take me. And I've also always I've produced bands and I've done graphics, and I've always I've been able to sustain myself for so long by having that other source of income. If you get into starting a band and you, one, don't have money saved up, and 2, don't have another source of income, after a little bit, you're going to be like, dang, dude, like, I don't know if I can do this. Catclothing.net. Check out Frake's clothing company. Has a lot of cool stuff. Pick up a Defend Kittens hat, Pizza Cat, Defend Kittens shirt. Look at this tie-dye shirt. Make sure you guys go over to catclothing.net. Pick up some sweet shirts. Also, head over to Cat Clothing on Instagram and give him a follow. Frank is a good dude, and go hook him up with that follow. Catclothing.net. Cat Clothing on Instagram. One of the first people left the band. At the time, he was the only person that really had a job, and so he was funding a lot of the stuff, and he was the main source of like being able to let the band do stuff. And after a little bit, he was like, dang, I can't do this. Like, I'm just lost all my money. Yep. And so he quit the band, went back to school, and got a real job, and which is totally fine if that's the life. Like, it's hard to be able to put the time and effort to do a band this extensively. And that's a big difference between being local and getting to that tour level, is how much you're willing to sacrifice.
I also think it's really hard. It's really hard in today's day and age, where everybody just thinks you're a failure if that's what you're still doing this late into your life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The outside world looks at you like, what do you do for a living? And let's say I'm doing merch on a tour. It's like, oh, I'm doing merch. He goes, oh, you're selling T-shirts?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, well, I'm going to college and I have a new kid and I just started my internship at fucking, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's like the American dream or whatever is so strange to me, to
Yeah.
where they'll still look at people that play in a band or work and sell T-shirts or whatever on a tour as like, it's like, oh, he's just fooling around. Maybe he'll get a real job someday. It's like,
Yeah, it's stuff that people don't see bands as a real business. And that's something that, like, whenever I met my wife's family for the first time, they were, I mean, obviously, like, my wife's family, 0% is not like the norm, right? And so, like, they are the norm. And so they, like, me walking in, long brown hair, full of tattoos, and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a musician. You know, like, it's the first thought into people's heads is, oh, he like plays at a bar and doesn't make any money.
they
And
all hang their head in disgust.
yeah, but I quickly got into talking to them about, like, how it's a business and how in depth, like, that whole situation actually is whenever it's ran properly, and that, like, they actually got interested in the whole thing. Like, I remember the first Christmas I sat there with one of our uncles and had a conversation for like 2 hours just about how we fund things and how we handle doing merchandise and how percentages to everyone. It's like they get interested whenever you tell them the actual details, as long as you're doing everything properly.
Yeah, my dad was really worried about me for a long time with the World We Knew, just because of, like, conditions weren't getting any better. You don't tell them whether a tour is bad or good, or whether you made a bunch of money or not, but like, we'd always show up and we'd be in a really grungy van with like, we'd put that bed in the back of yours once. And that, like, there was always like sand and dirt on top of it, like that. And then we'd pull up to his house and he'd be like, wow, you're living in this, like, this is bad. And then when I started working for like Bam Margera and whoever else, he's like, are you doing all right? And then I'd like, I wouldn't give him a number, but I'd be like, oh, it was a 5-figure tour for me. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, things are okay. And then he, now this is 5 years removed from the end of the World We Knew, and he just knows things are okay.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's sketchy.
Well, it's a huge thing to have supportive family around as well. Like, whenever you start this stuff, like, my sister really helped me get all my stuff rolling, like, she was really there to, I mean, my whole family's super supportive. Like, I don't come from a rich family, so anything I do was better than, whatever. Like, there was no expectations for me, but from people that come from more well-off families, like, it can be a huge pressure on you, because you'll have parents that expect you to go to college and become an engineer or something. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. My dad had money set off to the side for me to go to college, and I was a high school dropout. And he lived in Colorado at the time, so he didn't even know that I wasn't, like, going to school, and he didn't know that I wasn't doing anything when I did go to school. I would just kind of roam the halls and eat lunch, and that was kind of it. Play badminton in the gyms. And then when I'd, like, ask him for money for certain things, he'd be like, yeah, you got to take it out of your college account. And I was like, well, he doesn't know I'm not going to go to college. Yeah, it was a weird time. I don't envy anybody trying to start a band now or being in a new band, because I just don't know. I don't know the formula anymore. There is no perfect formula. It's luck. It's a lot of luck, man. It's a lot of luck.
Yeah, it's luck, and then you have to do something very unique. Like, you have to do something very stand out, because not only, like, honestly, in my opinion, the creativeness of your music isn't the only thing that matters. Like, no one cares if you're a good band, really.
No.
Like, how many bands out there are big just because they're talented? There's almost none that I can think of that are blowing up.
Very few.
Yeah, I mean, like, even like Rings of Saturn, those dudes are crazy musicians, but another huge selling point to them is their whole alien thing they got going in their artwork. It's more than just.
What's funny about that is people think that band is big, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's such a.
Well, they're not huge, but they do well.
Yeah, it's such a weird conversation to have. Certain bands are perceived to be big bands, and in reality, it's just not the case.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We get that we get it a lot with it's an effect for the Browning that people doubt. Like, okay, whenever a super Browning fan thinks of a Browning show, they think there's going to be 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
When in reality, no one does 1,000 people. But also in reality, the Browning does just as many heads, if not more, as people that are perceived bigger than us.
Yes.
So, like, we'll do like 200 heads or 150 on average. And in California, we did like 250 to 300 on this last tour. Or Austin, we did 300. But there are some bands that are perceived to be bigger than us. I don't necessarily want to like name any bands because they might think I'm calling them small or whatever. But there's bands that are like perceived to be bigger that we do more numbers than live. But just because their image or the way that how many social media numbers they have or something, they're considered a bigger band. Whenever realistically they're worth the same exact amount of money as us, you know?
Yeah.
And so perception of a band is huge. We actually did a tour with Rings of Saturn. It was one of the best. It was one of the better tours we had done recently because it was like a co-headliner. But they were drawing like 100 heads, and then we were drawing like 100 heads because our scenes were so different. Like we drew like breakdown scene kids, and they drew like tech death people, and so the shows were like 250, 300 a show just because it was two different crowds coming together.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's very hard for bands just now starting up. Like. I can't even really think of anyone besides Knock Loose that came up recently that blew the crap up.
And you know what's funny about that? That band is fine. They're pretty good. It's cool if you like that kind of thing. And then obviously it's a big deal. I've been listening to bands that sound like that since 2000.
Yeah.
maybe even before 1998, 1999. Like, so a band to come out of nowhere like that and just blow the fuck up out of nowhere, like, blows my mind. And I go, like, what the hell what just happened?
Yeah, because that's what my kind of thought is like you said, they're a fine band, they're great, they do well live, they're a good live band, but what did it for them? Because it was out of nowhere that they were headlining over Terror. Like what? Like what? Doing like 500 people?
When I saw that, I totally understood. But I looked at it and I was like, that is hectic to look at.
Yeah.
I was like, Terror has been one of my favorite bands since 2002.
Yeah.
I think that's when Lowest Low came out. But whatever. I was just like, holy shit. I don't know. Out of nowhere, man.
Well, maybe it wasn't even necessarily that like they thought that Knock Loose was bigger. Maybe the thought behind that tour was that Terror was like, okay, Knock Loose is drawing like a really young hardcore crowd.
That's absolutely it.
Yeah, because Terror draws an old hardcore crowd. People our age or older.
Yeah.
And so Knock Loose is drawing like that like 18 to even younger than 18 probably like that teenage to early 20s. Yeah. And so maybe Terror's like, let's just play in front of a bunch of young hardcore kids. And
that makes complete sense. I just looked at it though, and in my brain, I'm like, oh man. Like that's just weird to see.
Well, it's great for Knock Loose because it put them on a tier, up on a higher tier, headlining over them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they just came out of nowhere, and I was thinking the same thing. I was like, why them? Like, I mean, they have a cool name, and their vocalist sounds a little different than some people, but I don't know. And that's the whole thing Frank was talking about. He says he doesn't understand, and neither do I. Why does it happen to some bands? It's all luck, it seems.
Yeah, I was saying yesterday. I think we started touring in 2006, and we started putting out, I guess, better sounding stuff in like 2007 with The World We Knew. But I feel like if we would have started in 2002 and then started touring in 2004, that we would have been on a different tier than what we ended up being on just because of the timing.
The timing,
not so much of the content or our songs or whatever. Of course, that helps clearly, but I think if it came out a year or two earlier, just because of the timing and how the internet was and how MySpace was really affecting everything, I think The World We Knew would have been on a different tier with the Whitechapels or the Suicide Silences or whatever. Not, like I said, not because we were as good as those bands or as talented or anything. It's just the timing, because we did a lot of those kind of tours with those kind of bands over the years before they got really big, and then some when they did blow up. So it's just it's a very weird thing.
Well, back then bands would just get big from touring, like because back then people would be like, "Oh, there's a touring band coming to town. I'm going to the show." Like, who is it? I don't care. I'm going.
Yeah.
Like it was if a band was on tour back then, people would show up, and even back then, like back in that era, like that was whenever I was very first getting into the metal scene, or just playing metal in general. Because, I mean, shoot, 2004, I was 14. You know, that's whenever I was very first learning, like, As I Lay Dying and stuff like that. And we started playing shows. And even local shows back then, all local bands would do, like, 200, 300 people.
Yep. All of them.
Now a local show does 5, if even. You probably play to bands.
I don't really live anywhere at the moment. That's a whole nother conversation we can have. But my hometown, from when I was a baby until, I guess, a couple years ago, was Long Island, and it's kind of embarrassing to see an all local show now. And that's no dig on anybody. It's just how the scene is now. That's not for everywhere in the country, I'm sure, but for the scene that I know and I grew up with, it's like pulling teeth trying to get people out of there, and it has a lot to do with there's no shortage of venues, but it has a lot to do with there's just so much extra entertainment out there that you can do for next to no money. You can sit in your house all day and watch YouTube videos for 24 hours a day, never watch the same video, and technically it's just for the amount of money you pay for your internet monthly. That's it.
And that's been what I've said too. That's what I said too. The huge detriment to music and live music is no one leaves their house for entertainment anymore.
Nope.
Like it's rare. Like,
and if
even
you do, it better be fucking worth it.
Yeah, like typically, if me and my wife leave my house, it's typically to go get food, just because we want to go out to eat or something. Like the entertainment we do is go get food and go to the movies.
Yep.
You know, that's the only time we'll leave.
I actually talked myself out of going to see The Incredibles the other day, and I really want to see it, but I was just like, I'll sit here and I'll watch.
It's still hard to leave your house. Yeah, it's still hard to leave. Like there's so many ways to be entertained at home, which in 2004, there was the internet, but not to that extent. Like it was not to the extent it is now.
It was TV, whatever you watch on TV, and for me it was music. That's it. I literally didn't care about anything before I dropped out of high school. Well, and then after, obviously, I didn't care about anything other than music. That's all I wanted to do. My mom fucking hated bringing me to shows every other day. I went to 3 to 5 shows every week, and I don't know how she ever gave me money for anything, because she was a literal train wreck. That's a whole other story as well. But I remember I would barely eat at lunches just to have extra money so I could buy a T-shirt or something. Because T-shirts were like $10 back then. And
dude, it was a different era. Like music now, the big problem is that, like you said, there's so much more entertainment, and a lot of the entertainment you get for free. Like, and a huge detriment to the metal industry, especially small or medium tier bands, is how music is free now. Who the crap needs to buy an album anymore? No one. 0% reason to buy music.
Yesterday, I listened to an album on Spotify when I know I have it on my computer. And the reason I did it was like, oh, well, maybe they'll see a cent from this. I swear to God, that was my reasoning. I was like, I could easily just open this up on my computer. I already own this record, but I'm going to listen to it on Spotify, and maybe they'll get a cent from me. Because I pay monthly for Spotify. But I'm not buying records. Maybe I'm part of the problem. But there's no reason.
It's great because people are like, but then everyone can listen to your music even if they're poor. I'm like, that is true, but I feel like the compensation isn't there, and the way the music industry is set up towards assuming there's album sales, which there's not. Like, no. I talked about this a little bit.
It's such a problem.
Yeah, I mean, The Word Alive, one of the bigger bands in the scene, they did 2,200 first week on their album they just put out.
God,
like
that is
2,200, and that's no like smash onto them because they're a big band, they do great. But the Brownings' last album did 2,800 first week. I am so worried about what we're gonna do on this first week coming up if the Word Alive does 2,200.
Um,
But that's just how it is, dude. Why buy music? There's no
for
reason unless
for
you're a
any
collector.
for anybody who doesn't know anything about that kind of stuff, is I don't even know what's a good number anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do think anything above like 2,000 is probably pretty good nowadays for like a mid-level tier band.
Yeah.
But like for a band like who is it? Word Alive.
Yeah.
They were doing like upwards of 20,000, 30,000 back like 5-7 years ago, something like
Yeah.
that. So to go
That's a
jump
big
down to like
difference.
2,000 off their brand new record is like super super poor. And like Johnny
It's
said, it has
scary.
nothing to do. It has nothing to do with their musicianship or how good the songs
Anything,
are
yeah.
or whatever. It's just that's the nature of the beast. However, I love a band called Ghost. I'm wearing a shirt right now,
Yes.
and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of something I noticed last week when they released their new album. They debuted at number 2,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, I'm like, why the fuck did they debut at number 2? Or how did they debut at number 2? Because the last record they put out was an EP with 5 or 6 songs on it,
Yeah.
and it did 20,000 something. And I
Yeah.
said, how did it jump up 40,000 units
Yeah.
over the course of maybe less than a year? And it's because they announced their newest headlining tour, and every pre-sale ticket that was bought was the CD was attached with it.
CD was attached.
So they were selling tickets with the ticket price, and I don't know if it was an added bonus or an added amount of money for the CD or whatever, but
Yeah.
every ticket that was bought for their pre-sale for the tour that they just announced
Yeah.
got a CD along with it. So that added 40,000 extra units
Yeah.
to their CD sales. Another band that does that, who I'm sure you may have heard of, is a small band from San Francisco called Metallica.
Yeah.
They did that off of, what is it, Hardwired, Self-Destruct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean they don't need to do that clearly, but it didn't
But
hurt.
no, yeah. I mean,
Certainly
it's you
didn't
have
hurt.
to figure out these interesting ways to market now to make people get your music, to purchase the music, because there's no reason to purchase. So
Yep.
it's you got to figure out these weird little marketing ways to make it happen. But
I did that for the World We Knew on 2 different CD release shows.
mhm,
Actually, I did a whole week worth of touring where I did that
yeah,
to try to boost sales for whichever record it was.
yeah.
And I mean, we were doing okay, but it wasn't like sending us into the fucking sky with sales.
Yeah.
Our
But yeah,
show-
it's the music industry is in an interesting place. But let's get back to like what you're doing and your touring and all that stuff. And like you said, right now I'm gonna do quote unquote homeless, but you're not homeless. Obviously, you have places to stay because you know a lot of people and whatever. But you're doing that your choice, obviously.
yeah, I call it willingly homeless.
There you go.
I'm not trying to toot my horn or whatever. I don't have a money issue. It's not a money issue.
Yeah, of course.
I purposely do not have a car or a home for, it's been 2.5 years now, strictly because I have no guarantee on how long I could do this. I have no benefits. I have no health insurance. I have no 401k. I have nothing. The only band that consistently hires me over and over and over and over again because I want to stay with them
Yeah.
is Emmure, and I stay with them because they're some of my best friends and they treat me like a human being,
Yeah.
and I work really hard for them and they love it and whatever. It's a really good. They pay me what I'm worth, etc.
Yeah.
There are other bands I can absolutely stay with, but sometimes I choose not to. I've said no to a couple. That's
Yeah.
fine, but that's the only one, and they're not touring as much as I would like to tour. They
Yeah.
do tour. They do tour a lot, but I want to tour literally as much as humanly possible. For example, last year in 2017, I did 11 months straight on the road with very few breaks in between each tour.
Yeah.
It lined up. It was all the stars aligned. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It doesn't work like that every year. So a couple of years ago, I knew I was going to be working for Chelsea Grin for at least 2 tours back to back. and then jump into Warped Tour, and then I had something right after that, and I was like, wow, I'm going to be gone for like 7 months straight. Like, what the hell? So I left my apartment, and it's been 2.5 years now, and I stay with some friends here and there. I see some family I haven't seen in a while, and then I just try to get on to other tours as soon as humanly possible. I take breaks where I need to like cleanse myself of business.
Yeah. And people. It's nice to not be around people.
Yeah. And people. But willingly homeless just because I want to save as much money and make as much money as humanly possible, because I have no idea what will be, behind the next door.
The tough thing about doing like what Frank does is like he's not like represented by someone. He doesn't have someone going and finding him tours. He's doing it himself through connections. Like, and so like you have to work to get work, and so it takes a lot of work to do. Like, obviously. So like while you're on tour with a band, you're trying to figure out what you're going to be doing in like 3 months.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think it's it's funny you say that, because I don't know what I'm doing in mid-August or at all any of September yet. I know you guys are touring, but I just don't know. I know what I'm doing in October and November. So probably during the first batch of off days on Warped this year, I think there's like 2 or 3 days off right after the first California dates. I'm going to be sitting in a hotel room somewhere sending out emails to figure out the end of my summer, just because I know that once I'm done, I'll probably want a week to like sit in a dark room away,
especially after Warped Tour.
I'll sit in a basement somewhere without any sun and just kind of veg out. But right after that, I'm gonna be like, all right, what the hell am I gonna do for 2 months? So I have to figure it out sooner than later. For anybody who wants to tour or they think that it's super glamorous or anything like that, I think I live out of a suitcase that's literally the size of a pillow. And I bring that, my Xbox gaming system, my backpack, and a Pelican case with my printer and touring necessities. And that's what I live with. I whenever I go to certain friends' houses or my family's houses, I'll switch out shirts and like hoodies here and there, so it doesn't look I'm literally wearing the same shirt over and over and over and over again. But I literally live out of a suitcase the size of a pillow all year round, and especially for the past 2.5 years.
That's how it was for me too. Like, even whenever, like, I would have a month off of tour or 3 weeks off tour, and I would just leave my crap in my travel bag. Like, I didn't unpack it, put it in a dresser or something. It's like there was a long time where it was the same for me. I had a backpack that had my laptop and my headphones and stuff, and then I had a suitcase that had like 2 pairs of pants and like 10 shirts, and all band shirts, because I didn't buy shirts. Like, I mean, when was it, like, how often do you even buy a shirt that's not a band shirt anymore, or one that you get from a sponsor or something, you know? You guys know Ink Addict by now. Wearing one of their shirts right now. They're a great company. They have really sick designs that are designed and based off of the tattoo lifestyle. They're a tattoo lifestyle brand. Head over to their website, inkaddict.com, and also head over to Ink Addict Nation on Twitter and give them a follow. Hook them up. They're a really good company. I've been involved with these dudes for like 8 years. Really good company and really good branding. I love it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Thankfully I run a clothing company, so I can just wear my stuff whenever I want. But
of course.
Like this ghost shirt was a gift, so this is maybe an exception. But oh man, it's just whoever I'm touring with. That's what I'm wearing for that portion of the tour.
And it's something that I actually kind of really like that touring gave me. Like, touring has changed me in a ton of ways. It's hardened me in a lot of ways and made me realize a lot of things about people. But one thing that I really, really love about it is, like, it's made me be very minimalistic in what I need as a necessity to live, you know?
Oh yeah.
And because you don't have much when you're on tour. And so it's like through touring, there was probably like a 5-year span where Browning was doing like 200, 250 shows a year, if not more. And it was just, you learn how to live a very simplistic life. And, it's nice. It's made me a lot more comfortable with a lot of different things. And I mean, for you, because you've been in, like, you got hit by a Mack truck, you've been through like a ton of horrible freaking winters. I know we saved you one winter from being stuck on a hill. I say saved, we didn't actually save him, but like, from touring, what is something that you like have taken out of it that you think has been a better, not including money or whatever, just a thing about touring that changed you as a person?
I know I can survive without needing a bed or a shower every day of my life. I know that sounds really simple, but I could probably guarantee that I've slept on more couches and floors than I have beds in the last 10 years, maybe even 20 years of my life. And that's a real thing. Right this second, I'm sitting on my buddy's couch in his basement, and that's my bed.
Yeah.
And I'm so fine with it. It's totally fine. My patience is way better than it ever has been.
Yeah.
And that's just because you deal with so many different kinds of people every day on the road, that you just have to learn how to live with different kinds of people. Nobody's the same.
Yeah.
It's frustrating at times, but
especially working with so many different bands like you have.
Yeah. And dealing with every personality that comes along with it. Not everybody wants to treat you as nicely as the other person. And sometimes you feel useless and you feel, not helpful when all you're trying to do is run things satisfactorily. Satisfactorily. I'm trying to.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So you think like touring has helped make you like way more patient and just more understanding of personalities and how to get along.
Yeah. I don't blow up as quickly anymore as I probably did back then. I just kind of keep your head down and fix the problem before it escalates anymore.
Yeah. Now, see, I don't really have that part of me that I learned from touring yet, because I haven't worked for other bands. Like, so like if there's someone on the tour that's on my nerves, like in another band, I just freaking like, I just not around them. I don't talk to them. I don't conversate. I'm just like, get away from me, And like with the Browning, we've had the same members for so long now that it's like, everything's chill, and we've all had the same routine for so long that we never have problems in the Browning. We'll get in, not necessarily even arguments. Like, we'll have disagreements. Like, we disagree about stuff, but like, as far as the Browning goes, it's the most chill touring situation ever possible. But I can't even imagine, like, I was thinking about getting into tour managing, and the very first tour I got offered was one that I just knew I wouldn't be able to get along with the people. And so I was just like, I turned it down just because of that. Like, so I give you credit for being able, because especially touring with some of the bands you have, I can't imagine myself. There's no way I would have had the patience to deal with those people.
It's an art form, I swear. I swear it's an art form, and I have not mastered it at all.
Does it feel like you're like freaking babysitting children sometimes?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On certain tours?
Yeah. And like people that are, not always, but there's absolutely people that are way older than me that I have to like look after and deal with, and you have to make sure these people don't die, and you have to handle their money.
Yeah.
You have to handle their money, and you have to it's a weird concept. It's a very weird concept. But it's same thing about being in a band. Like if you want something, I don't know what my goal is with it. I just want to go as big and as long and as big as I possibly can in this lifetime. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm not the man on stage anymore, and that's fine. I could very much do it all over again. I could try it again or get the What We Knew back together or whatever. But for right now, I'm doing very well in my career as a merchandiser or a tour manager, whatever, you name it.
And you were mentioning yesterday how like a goal would be like doing like merch or some sort of management with WWE and like traveling with them. Like that'd be.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm a huge wrestling fan. I don't know my way in there yet. I have a couple of friends that are close with people that do work there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything. I don't know my foot in the door for that yet, but I do know that they tour well over 300 days a year. And that's what I would absolutely love to do that, because I have a passion for the product, number one, and number two, that's what I do. I tour, I'm single. I don't have any kids. I don't have anything holding me down. I don't have a car. I don't have a home. It's a natural progression to where I would love to work for a company that has me out for literally the entire year, every year, until maybe I'm sick of it. I don't see that. I don't see that in my future just yet. But hell, I mean, if anybody that potentially hears this knows, let me know.
And what do you think it would be that would make you be like, okay, I could stop touring?
I don't know. Women are the devil, so that could change me. But I mean, after 12 years, I haven't found that yet. I don't know, honestly. I get bored really, really easy, which is why touring is like a drug, because there's something new every day. There's always a schedule. There's always something that needs to be done. I get bored on off days, and I enjoy off days more than I used to, because I'm working more and harder and whatever. But there's days where I'm just bored on a regular off day on tour. I'm like, all right, let's do the show. I need the show tomorrow. Let's go. So I don't really know what'll stop me. I don't know. To be determined.
For me, it's like the big thing is like, and I feel like it's a thing with just getting around the age of 30. A lot of people are like, dang, like, I don't know, touring's fine and stuff, but I need to think about life. And like, for me, it's like, I really want to have kids, and I don't know, like that might not happen anytime soon, probably. But by the time I have kids, I want to be prepared, like monetarily. And you have to think realistically as a metal musician, monetarily, is this something that can support a family? And I would say 99 times out of 100, it's probably no, like from a metal perspective. And so that's why you see a lot of these bands that have been around for 10 years really starting to transition into something that could reach a wider audience. It's not because they're selling out. It's probably because, go ahead.
Or breaking up.
Yeah, exactly. It's because they need to make money, and like or they want to transition into something that could potentially make more money, because after you've been doing it for 10 years, it's rarely about the passion anymore. As in writing music, it's more so like, this is my job. This is what I've done. Because if you've lasted that long, there's probably some money involved in it. Yeah. And like, you're like, this is my job. And you know what? I need to do something to make more money with it. Like, obviously there's still an underlying passion, but it's different.
I loved what we did until the very second I was done on that stage, the very last night we played our last show. I still love it. I still love everything we achieved, but I was crying my fucking eyes out from the second the last note hit until the second there was a curtain at that venue, which I thought was funny. They closed the curtain on us. I was bawling my eyes out from the second we were done until like I walked over to the merch table and tried to like collect myself. Just because it was it was like a relief, but it was the end, you know what I mean? It was the end of what we did for 9 years. And I mean, it came to a point where I was sick and tired of being, I'm not going to say unappreciated, because just times were changing. That's just how it went. But I was sick of being super, super broke, not being able to pay my rent, not being able to eat properly as a human being, a growing adult. Just that kind of stuff sucks, man. And that's just for us. That doesn't go for every band.
Well, and it's also like, it's the goals
had nothing to do with me losing passion. That's what I was getting.
Yeah, well, it's the goals for every band initially starting are always, I want to tour and I want to play music and I want to meet people. I want to see the country. I want to see the world. And that is like, that to me is totally worth being broke and being like, you know, not knowing what you're doing by the time you're 30 or something. And it's totally worth that for that initial experience. Like, I would never tell anyone not to try to be in a band if they really, really, really wanted to, or just tour or whatever. But at some point, you do have to be realistic if it's not working out, and because you can't just be a 40-year-old in the same position, you know. And so Like that's what it kind of comes to with a lot of these bands is like they completed their goals of touring and seeing the world and meeting thousands of people and playing music and making great music. But yeah, you just get old eventually, and it's also like a big factor of like how successful do you want to be in the sense of like monetarily. And
How
so
much
some people
how much are you willing to give up as an adult
exactly
to potentially achieve these goals that are not guaranteed?
not guaranteed. Yes, and that's the big thing.
Yeah, that's the big
Not guaranteed.
the big thing. Nothing is
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah, because
And,
we
and
were talking about that a
one,
bit yesterday.
No one owes you anything. That's
Mhm.
another thing.
And you'll be told no a million times.
Yeah, I thought that we were owed so much just for the amount of time and effort we put in, whether it was with CDs or touring as a DIY kind of act.
Yeah.
I booked our own tours because nobody else wanted to book us at a certain time. Like
Mm.
I was like, we deserve so much more, and I was super, super bitter. But nobody owed us anything. It's just
exactly.
It wasn't our time. And I sat in my apartment one day and it clicked. And I walked upstairs to our guitar player Tim's apartment because we lived like right below each other.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, listen, what do you think? Should we not do this anymore? And he's just like, I mean, if you're saying it.
Yeah.
I was the founding member. I started it in 2004. He's like, if you're saying it, it's like, do we have a choice? And I was like, yeah. So I don't know. Just how much can you take? That's what it is.
Yeah, but look, this is like Frank's band. You know, they stopped doing stuff, but also like, look what it's done for him at this point. You know, if it wasn't for the world we knew, you would not have done everything that you've done.
No, yeah, it's certainly not a pity party. I had my own pity party for sure. You know, when it happened. That's my own issues, and I dealt with them. And now people still talk to me all the time on tours about the world we knew. I have people come in and taking pictures with me still 5 years later, and like people with world we knew tattoos come out of the woodwork, and that shit baffles me because I'm like, somebody texted me the other day and said that they saw somebody walking around in Philadelphia with a world we knew shirt on. And I was like, wow, I hope our shirts didn't I hope the print didn't fall off or anything. That stuff is still really cool. But yeah, like you said, it's not a pity party, man. It just opened up other doors. And those other doors led me to tons of other opportunities and tons of other friends and a good career with good money. And
an actual career. Like it's
an actual career.
Yeah. And it's
a sustainable life career.
And it's something I'm doing right now too, and this kind of would go into you also like going to WWE and whatever. What I'm doing at this point is I'm taking what I've learned through touring, through managing travel, through managing events, and I'm trying to apply it to a field outside of music.
Yep.
The way I'm going is I'm trying to go towards esports, like competitive gaming, and I actually leave tomorrow to go. I manage a professional team, and I head up to Amazon headquarters in Seattle for an event that I'm managing.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And so it's like I'm taking everything I've learned in the music industry and applying it elsewhere, so I can get into doing a career outside of music. As much as I love music, I only see negative things for the heavy industry, like the heavier side of it. Like to me, the only industry that's really killing it is rap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so to me, I need to take, and I don't really have a passion for rap. So I'm not going to try to go into some field that I don't have a passion for, because I do have a passion for heavy music. But I do have a passion for gaming and competitive gaming. And so I'm taking my knowledge of managing groups of people and all this stuff and applying it into another field. Just like if you were to get into it, the things coexist. The stuff you've learned from touring in a band can be applied into another field for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing with Kat. Recently, like I said, I took on a partner who now owns a share in the company, and we're trying to do all the things that I didn't do for the past 5 years to try to grow it into something that will be a sustainable business. And will that take me out of touring? I don't know. Maybe it will someday, because I'll have my hands full with making a serious business grow. I don't know if that's the case, but like I said, cats don't get old. People still love them. I could figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I didn't stick with it for 5 years, just hoping that I was going to put out another ridiculous shirt and somebody would buy it. I wouldn't be in a position where somebody was like, all right, I want to make this grow with you. And we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. And that's the big thing is like, I just like, touring teaches you so much. Like, it's hardened me. Like, I've dealt, like, we got robbed in Italy, lost everything, had to cancel half of a tour, stuck in Italy with no money, no nothing. And I was just like, fine. I was just like totally fine with the situation. Obviously it sucked, but I was able to handle the situation and make sure everyone in the band was totally fine.
I would have had a meltdown.
And so it was like, you know, that I would not have been able to do when I was 18, very first started touring. But I was able to do it as whenever it happened, however old I was, after having those years of dealing with just a continual, there's always something going wrong. Typically, there's something that needs to be dealt with. And so whenever that happened, I was just like, I was really proud of myself and how I handled the situation. And, you know, just dealing with stuff on the road all the time has really turned me into a better person, I think. And that's why I would always tell people, if you want to do it, if you have a passion for something that is like this, then freaking go for it.
Yeah, whatever it is. Just if you really, really care and you think that's what's going to make you happy as a human being internally, make you happy, just do it as much as you possibly can until the wheels fall off.
Frank even got to work with Disney on Ice, dude. Like, from doing The World We Knew, you eventually worked with Disney on Ice. How many people get to say that? Come on, dude.
I did. What's really funny about that is that's that year. That was the start. That was the touring cycle of 2017 where I did 11 months straight. I did Disney on Ice, directly into Emmure, directly into Oceano, directly into CKY, directly into Yellow Wolf.
You hit everything. You're
directly
just like...
into Robert Randolph and the Family Band, which is like a jazz soul pop project. So I did like 6 crazy different styles of music, and not even so much music, but also sport and theater in Disney. It's like
that's so sick.
The mix last year was ridiculous.
Being on Oceano Store, like, hey, what were you just doing? Yeah, I was on Disney on Ice. You're like, what?
Going from Disney straight to Emmure is hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're dealing with, I was merchandising for Disney, and you're dealing with literal children, infants, and angry parents that are buying $15 popcorns and $15 cotton candies directly into people that just want to punch each other in the throat the second they hear a breakdown.
That's so sick.
Yeah,
that's great, dude. And and so you're about to, when do you leave for Warped Tour?
Tomorrow afternoon. I leave to go to production day in Pomona, California, and then I'll be working for We the Kings, but I also have Cat Clothing out the entire summer. I have people working that booth and making it run, and I'm kind of overseeing everything. And the reason why I'm working for another band and also having the company out is not because my loyalty to my brand, it's because I need to make a living. That's
you're already there, dude.
That's how
you got to grind. Frank is the epitome of grinding out the scene. Like, you really have, like, you've made all these connections and made it possible, and like, really, people can do it. Like, someone I kind of compare to, like, your situation is like Thaddeus. You know, do you know that? Yeah, like Thaddeus, he started being a merch guy for Oceano, and then ended up being, now he's like tour manager for Dying Fetus, and has, you know, there's plenty of people that have started at just doing their own thing and eventually turned into a career, you know? And so it's really sick what the metal industry can do if you have the hard work.
If you apply your knowledge to something else, you can achieve a lot more than just whatever is in the small bubble of this little music industry.
Exactly. But yeah, so
speaking of which, you and I were talking about yesterday about potentially, I don't know, speaking to help younger children, like younger kids.
I would love to.
And that's a different avenue. You can
totally different thing.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's knowledge of what we've done as adults and teenagers, and what we've done over the past decade or so, and try to get people to make better decisions as a younger person.
Yeah, through touring, I'm sure, especially when you're with The World We Knew, that you have a lot of people come up to you that kind of consoling you. You know, they're like, I love what you've done, and your music has helped me in some way, and you get to talking about some really deep crap. And that has given me a passion to want to help people even more. Yeah. And so I would love to be able to, if me and you got together and we had these almost like seminars to help people like learn to maybe that you can be positive and still chase your dreams and still be successful. Yeah. And so I would love to be able to do that. I want to help people then, and that's another thing I really take out of touring. I feel like it's hardened me, but it's also made me very compassionate towards like helping people in that way, because like mental health is a freaking crazy thing. And also the drive or the want to be successful is also a crazy thing. And sometimes those can clash with each other. And so, but you can do them. They can coincide if you do it properly with something you love.
Yeah. I enjoy doing that. Giving the knowledge that I have a non-biased and a very straightforward, realistic look at how I do or did what I did. Mm-hmm. In hopes to let somebody understand that drive better, or that
and what they're capable of. People don't understand what they're capable of, but if they have someone that has done it that can push them in that direction, then I'd love to be able to do that, you know.
Persistence and drive.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Frank is going to be on Warped Tour with Cat Clothing. You can check out his booth there, and I do appreciate you talking to me for a second time. Yeah. For again over an hour. So maybe we'll be able to talk again sometime, and have I toured with you 7-8 years ago, and I'd still consider you one of my best friends. So
absolutely, man.
Even if we don't talk that much, there's still a bond there with people that you connect with on tour. It's a very strange bond.
Absolutely. The strangest bond. If you'd show me 36 cents in your hand and pull it away from you really quick. And that's what I remember the most.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you talking.
You're going to come out to the Warp date and sweat it out?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'll come out to one. If you can get me some access to like a room that has a fan in it once an hour or something.
Once an hour.
I just need some cool air on me. I can't stand outside for that long. I'm a gamer.
I'll just blow you, man.
Oh,
well, that sounds way worse.
No, it sounded perfect. It sounded perfect.
That's the way to end this. Is perfect.
Yep.
I meant.
That's how I like it.
All right, end it right there. Fuck this.
All right, bye, Frank. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yep.